And joining us now is Steve Rogers. He's a retired U.S. military intelligence officer and retired lieutenant for the Nutley, New Jersey Police Department. And also joining us is criminal defense attorney Bob Bianchi. Both of you, so many just really stunning details came out this week. Steve, let me start with you. And you and I have been talking about this case from the very beginning. Some of these details were really powerful, and I thought one of the other things, too, was what law enforcement revealed, and it came out in that affidavit, showing that DNA basically tied to this suspect was found on the button of the knife sheath. Also, his phone, as Sarah was just talking about, was pinging in the area of the crime scene before and after, but looks like it was turned off or put in airplane mode during it. What do you make of this evidence that law enforcement has put together?
Well, Rita, as we know, the police did have a bumpy start, but I must tell you they did an extraordinary job in getting enough evidence to get a judge to sign off on an arrest warrant and search warrant. Now, saying that, yes, they started with the DNA through the genealogical data bank. Then they have the pings off of the cell phone towers that brought the suspect back to the area. Now you got the DNA off the sheath. My point is this, the police know that they need enough strong evidence to have a rock-solid case against this individual. And it seems to me that they're working hard to ensure that there's going to be no way, shape, or form that any defense attorney is going to be able to get this guy exonerated. I am surprised that the defense attorney immediately came out and said that his client will be exonerated. But saying that, as the police move forward and gather more and more and more evidence, hopefully they'll be able to get the knife and the clothes, by the way, that this individual was wearing. They'll have a rock-solid case to ensure that there is no doubt at all in the minds of any juror that this suspect did commit that criminal act.
You know, it's interesting because, Bob, just as Steve was aptly saying, that it sounds like the defense is already saying that at least the suspect wants to be exonerated. He believes he will be exonerated. I want to put you into your defense attorney's hat. What do you think, Bob, could be his defense?
Well, as a former prosecutor where I have more experience in prosecuting homicide cases, I can tell you this is a pretty solid case. They did an excellent job. The timelines are so solid and pristine. They have the DNA evidence. They don't have motive. They don't need it, but they're certainly, in my opinion, working on that piece. As a defense lawyer, what your job is to do in a case like this is to keep him out of the death penalty. Idaho has a death penalty. He has about 6 aggravating factors. Those are factors that would justify imposing the death penalty. And what a defense attorney basically does, in my opinion, in a case like this with the evidence that is so substantial that they have right now, is go to prosecutors and say, look, we'll plead guilty to a life without parole sentence as opposed to the death penalty. Now, flipping scripts to when I was a prosecutor handling homicide cases, this is not the kind of case that I would plea bargain. I'd basically be saying he pleads guilty to the death penalty or we go to trial. The case, in my opinion, in my estimation, is that strong at this point in time. And let's give credit, lastly, to those, police officers that identified the vehicle at Washington State University, ran the license, saw bushy eyebrows on the defendant's picture, knew that that was a description that was given by the surviving victim inside of the home, and started this all off. This is a rock-solid case for prosecutors.
Yeah, it is amazing to see all the steps. Steve, too, also, I want to get to one point, too, Steve, on this, too. I found this fascinating about one of the 2 roommates who survived the attack. And I want to show a little bit. She witnessed, this is amazing from this account. It says, a figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered the person's mouth and nose walking towards her. She described the person as being 5'10", male, athletic build with those bushy eyebrows that we were just talking about, which seems like a fairly accurate description of Kohberger. What do you make of that? And that was an interesting encounter, too. Why do you think he also luckily spared her?
Well, Rita, it seems to me this guy was living out or acting out his fantasy or whatever you want to call that. I mean, he's written about, doing research into the mind of criminals. So he targeted these individuals, and they're going to have to find out why them, obviously what the motive was. And in his mind, he accomplished the mission, if you will, that he actually created. So I think you got a very sick person here. But what I want to ask, Rita, if you don't mind, and maybe Bob could weigh in on this, could the defense move forward with maybe an insanity plea? I'm hoping that law enforcement has psychologists and psychiatrists interview this fellow, because I think the defense attorney may try that. Now, you're the lawyer, Bob, not me, so thank you, Rita, for allowing me to
actually,
ask
that's a great question. But you know what's interesting? In court, although this was just a preliminary phase, the judge did say, is he cognizant? Is he on medication? He said he's cognizant, not on medication. What do you think about that real quick, though, going the insanity route, Bob?
Yeah, as a prosecutor, why I don't think that's going to work. In fact, I know it's not going to work, is you've got to show that they suffer from a mental disease or defect to the point where they don't know the difference between right or wrong. So what we would do as prosecutors is show conduct that occurred before and after the crime to show that there's purposeful planning, the shutting off of that phone, the stalking for 12 instances over a 3-month period, driving back to that scene shows what we say in the law, goal-oriented behavior, which shows that he knew the difference between right or wrong and what he was doing because it was a premeditated, calculated thing. Rita, last point I just want to bring out real quick. If I were a prosecutor in this case, I would be looking at cold cases and anywhere this guy has ever gone, because I don't think this is a one-time thing. This guy had a fascination with murder. It may have been a one-off, but I would be worrying whether or not we have a serial killer here.
Yeah, a lot of people have said that it's sort of a leap to suddenly not do anything and then to go to a gruesome quadruple murder, as you point out. Both of you, thank you very much. Let's hope that they have a rock-solid case. Thank you very much, and justice, of course, for the families. Everybody coming up.